Hello, viewers. Hello, Gravitrons. I'm More Gravity. Let's play chess. So I won this game about 4 or 5 minutes ago. Oh man, came down to the wire there, but I got it done. Um, let's take a look. I had extreme power, but I was running against my own clock. Let's just take a look. I had the white pieces. I played pawn to d4 to start. d5, c4, queen's gambit, c takes, or d takes c, that's the queen's gambit accepted. And I opened the board up a little bit here with pawn to e4. And knight to c6. And bishop takes c4 might be a little bit of a miscue. This is early on in the queen's gambit accepted. So I want to allow the computer analysis function to inform a better move. And I've done this before, and I recall now, yes, in this position we might play knight f3. Yeah, it's not also bad to take or capture on c4. The bishop captures on c4, and then the issue of material is even for a little bit, unless black wants to, push things on d4, which I guess might be kind of the point. The computer has knight f3, so what did I play? Played. Well, anyway, moving on. Bishop takes c4, I think is not so bad as it seems, but it is a mistake. And so we play on, trying to regain some kind of position against black anyway. And with queen to b3, white is solidly down a full pawn. And also has, at the moment, an attack against f7 that could be very bad. If black doesn't pay attention to this could be very bad for black. Say knight f6, like a normal looking developing move for the knight to get to his normal developing square. Then bishop takes f7, so there goes a pawn, but it's bishop takes f7 check. We're thinking maybe king to d8, and the king has already moved from his spot, so it's not good for black in the long term. White might play knight to g3, and this attacks black's queen, but after the queen goes to b6 and then castles, there might be attacks along the d file, or if the queen stays on the d file, there would be definitely attacks along the d file, trying to skewer the queen against her own king. So yeah, black must do something about the threat against f7, and in my opinion, this is exactly so. e6. There's nothing wrong with e6. I think black is still doing very well here. Completely closes the attack against f7. So what am I saying is, in online blitz, you could play like I did, queen b3 for this attack, and my opponent closed it up. Okay, then we think of something else. Knight to c3 is the computer best move. We want to protect the pawn on e4. This is the best way to do so. And after knight a5, seems like the computer thinks this is the best move. Black is in this is tempting. This is a little bit somewhere between interesting and dubious. I like the move as an interesting move, but as an analyst, it's a bit dubious. Black's pieces are on the back rank to start an attack like this with knight to a5. You want to have worked out the calculations, and I think I show. Do I show? I show that. Well, no, I didn't really quite. I wasn't equal to the task, so to black's point then. Although c6 is not all that good. It affords white too many opportunities. I played bishop b3, and perhaps I should have played queen takes a5, and then after black plays queen takes c4, look for something forcing along the lines of controlling d8 for my queen to move to that square. There's multiple options for this. after the bishop goes to g5, there's some extra protection on d8, and then immediately after that, the rook can come to d1 with the bishop now out of the way, and also attack the d8 square, maybe before black's king is ready to find safety. So that would be one idea for white after this equal exchange of material. I think it's called an indirect material exchange. And to be honest, I used to do it often, and now I don't do it that often. Don't look too far into that. I'm talking about chess. Anyway, I played bishop to b3. When knight takes b3, white has the option of a takes b3 or queen takes b3. I chose a takes b3. Some kind of homage or homage given to the fact, or idea given to the fact, really, that the queen's pretty darn well placed where she is. And a queen swap on a4 will allow me to correct my doubled pawns, and I'm okay with that. Black's still considered better by the evaluating engine. Maybe a little bit due to two bishops, but also due to an extra point of material more than anything. So bishop b4, I like this move. This is a good move because in particular, this bishop can't be kicked by by the c pawn or by the a pawn. The bishop, I mean, black might even follow it up with a5 and have this bishop sort of camp out there until my light squared bishop or one of my knights comes to change the situation now. Actually, yeah, wow, okay. Spending time on a5 now is silly because my bishop moves to d2 and is going to be able to kick this bishop around or engineer a trade of equal value pieces. Castles on kingside, rook to d8. Yeah, here, I'm going to jump on this pin against the knight at f6. I think in the very next move I initiate an exchange. Yeah, so when my bishop is put to the question, so to speak, my opponent puts the question to my bishop by playing h6, and the g5 bishop can't just sit there or he'll be lost. And I decided that the double pawns on black's kingside were worth getting rid of the minor exchange. So black has some trumps here. An extra pawn, the bishop pair. Not only is it the bishop pair, it's the bishop pair against two knights. And these double pawns aren't really all that bad, at least not yet. Depending on what happens on the e pawn, sometimes the pawns on the f file here can take the shape of f7, e6, f5. And that's actually quite strong. Very sturdy against attacks along any of these files. These pawns will be very, very strong, and the king's even naturally protecting the base. So this depends on what happens with the e pawn. This is part of the story. Before we get there, I'll play rook to d1. To challenge the open file is pretty natural. And my opponent, in experienced fashion, closes the challenge to the file a bit. Knight g3, f5, knight to h5, and the bishop comes back. That's smart. Black needs to control the f6 square against the potential of knight to f6 check, with two pieces now bearing down on the bishop and the king needing to escape the grips of white's check, black will lose the minor piece on d7. So exactly the right move here. Bishop to e7 is the most most straightforward and best way to stop the check on black's king. Rook d2, bishop f8 was one of those strangely good moves. No, I like this move, bringing the bishop back to the back rank. You know, black is cramped. It's strange to think of this position. It's as open as things are for white. Black is quite, actually kind of cramped in this position. My opponent recognized that place and placed the bishop on e8. Understanding that could still be the best move. So rook fd1, the trade of rooks is fine. Rook to d8. I do initiate a trade here, and I wanted mostly to get these pawns on. I was going for here. Here I was going for e takes f5, and my calculations had takes f5 in response, with like some seriously wrecked pawn structure on the king side. Isolani, doubled pawns, horribly doubled pawns. And then on the queen side, the black pawn structure is fine. But my attempt was e takes f5 and created really badly doubled pawns. My opponent avoided that, but maybe I'm seeing that this was considered a mistake, so maybe this wasn't exactly. Yes, there's some kind of mistake that I don't. I guess just retreating back to g3 while supporting the f5 pawn is strong enough for now. E takes f5, knight takes f5, and bishop g6 is bad. This is an inaccuracy because of what results, but there's no aim. I'm critical of this move. I'm critical of bishop g6. Just very straightforward. White can capture on h6 with check. And then after king g7, knight g4, knight g4, white is now ahead a pawn. It's still probably, like the evaluation bar has, it's probably still about even. Mostly because of the bishop pair that black has is very strong. It's a more active king. And the pawns on the queen side are they're at least okay. They at least have good integrity. And then there's an Isolani on f6, but this Isolani is being protected by start and finish and back to start again. So about even. The board, I agree with the evaluation. The board is pretty much even. Now we see white's going to pursue some of these pot shots against black's minor pieces to try to break up the bishop pair. The bishop pair. Some exchanges. And now white's gonna get aggressive, looking for forks in the middle of the board here. Knight to d4 is not a fork, but it kind of gets the job done with two pieces against f5. This sort of fork ideal, probably the black play bishop to d7. No? Okay, yeah, so this isn't as good. Bishop to d7. Bishop to d7 also protects g5. without relinquishing the protection duties that the bishop has against b5. If bishop e4, is that what we saw in the game? I don't know, because bishop to d7 is I'm suggesting bishop d7. However, knight takes b5 still garners white an extra pawn if played. Now white has a second pawn in advantage, and then if bishop takes b5, then still knight takes b5, and white has two extra pawns and a knight against a now unpaired bishop. I think white's doing very well there. I'm criticizing the computer's choice of best mover. It's also mine, bishop d7, but let's give the computer a chance here. Bishop d7, h4. You wouldn't play h4 that well. You would capture one of the pawns. Bishop to b6. Okay, that's more interesting. Yes, all right. Well, the computer has it. Bishop to b6. Then it doesn't keep these knights staying where they are, because if I move my d4 knight, then bishop takes b5. If I make a move that's like, say I want to free my king for activity, I might play g3, then pawn to a6, and in anticipation of being captured by a pawn on the next move, white moves knight to c3, but then again I lose a knight to the move, bishop takes d4. Okay, so let's understand that for now. What happened in the game, my opponent played a blunder. Bishop e4, knight takes e4, f takes e4, knight takes b5. Now white is definitely ahead, 2 points of material as the minor piece against 2 pawns, and I'm going to try to find a way to win more. And here it is, after attacking the pawn, and the king responds by protecting this pawn. In this situation, that means that white can play knight f7 check, the king moves again, and the bishop's gone. From here, I played well against time pressure, and that's mostly to realize that this knight is going to protect on a5, and the h pawn is worlds away from black ever capturing it before that h pawn promotes. I'll conserve the knight because of the a pawn, and yeah, I missed a mate in 1 in there, but I'm okay with that so far, so I still win the game. I had my pieces a little bit mixed up here. I think at some point I was able to clarify, and then I think this is sometimes called a 2-file checkmate with the queens attached. All right. Right, that's it for this session, my friends. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.